He had promised not to cry. But as the cathedral bells rang through Copenhagen, King Felipe's eyes told another story. A father, a king, and now, a witness to destiny. No one expected what happened next. A twist that left the entire royal world breathless. It began with a silence so deep it felt sacred. Princess Leonor of Spain, radiant and poised, walked down the aisle with calm grace. Her gown shimmered like morning light over the Danish sea, elegant, pure, and symbolic of new beginnings. Beside her, King Felipe stood tall, yet every step his daughter took seemed to echo through his heart. He wasn't just giving away his daughter. He was passing on a crown of legacy. The ceremony in Copenhagen was meant to be formal, flawless, historic. But then came the moment that no one saw coming, the moment that turned a royal tradition into an unforgettable story of love, family, and emotion. As Leonor reached the altar, she looked back at her father, not as a king, but as a man who had taught her what honor truly means. And Felipe, despite his composure, blinked away a tear. For a brief second, the king was just a father. The world saw it, the cameras captured it, and that single tear told 1,000 untold stories, of pride, love, and the pain of letting go. But the twist wasn't just in that moment. It came minutes later, when Leonor paused before saying her vows. The audience held its breath. Christian reached for her hand, whispering something the microphones barely caught. You'll always have both homes, Spain and Denmark. And then, something extraordinary happened. Instead of repeating the traditional Danish vow, Leonor added her own words, in Spanish. Her voice steady, heartfelt, Te prometo amor y lealtad, no solo como esposa, sino como reina de corazón. I promise you love and loyalty, not only as a wife, but as a queen of heart. The cathedral gasped. It broke centuries of royal tradition. Even the Danish bishop froze for a moment, unsure whether to continue. But then King Felipe stood, slowly clapping, leading the applause that filled the hall. That single act changed everything. It was more than a gesture of love, it was a statement of strength, identity, and emotion. For the first time, the world saw Princess Leonor not just as a royal daughter, but as a leader in her own right, a woman unafraid to define her destiny. Queen Letitia's expression softened into tears. She reached for Felipe's hand, and for the first time in public, Spain's royal couple looked vulnerable, parents moved by their child's courage. Across the pews, Queen Margrethe of Denmark smiled, recognizing the boldness of youth, the fire of a new generation. And then came another surprise. The choir began to sing, not the planned Danish hymn, but a Spanish classic, Por ti volare. The choice was spontaneous, whispered by Christian moments before the ceremony began. As the music filled the cathedral, the couple's story seemed to unfold before everyone's eyes, love born between two worlds, bound by faith, culture, and devotion. Felipe watched, silent but proud. Every note reminded him of Leonor's childhood, her first public speech, her training at the academy, her quiet resilience under public scrutiny. He had raised her to be strong, but now he saw something deeper, compassion. And that compassion was her crown. After the vows, as they turned toward the audience, a sudden chant rose from outside. Viva la Reina Leonor! Long live the Queen! The words carried through the cathedral's open doors, echoing down the streets of Copenhagen. For a moment, it wasn't just Spain or Denmark celebrating. It was the entire world. But what many didn't see on camera was the private moment that followed. After the ceremony, Felipe met Leonor behind the cathedral, away from the flashing lights. He took her hands in his and said quietly, "You were born to serve, but today you reminded us what it means to lead, with love." She smiled and replied, "You taught me that, Papa." The embrace that followed wasn't royal. It was human, and it was the moment that defined the day. Back at the palace, the reception glittered with tradition, gold chandeliers, royal guests, and classical music. But Philippe's eyes were drawn again and again to Leonor and Christian. He watched them dance, laugh, and whisper to each other like two souls free of protocol. It reminded him of his own youth, of how love had once defied expectation. Then, another twist. Leonor took the microphone. She addressed both families, in Spanish and Danish. "Today, we unite more than nations. We unite hearts. I promise to serve with integrity and love, as my father has." Every guest stood. Philippe's hand trembled slightly as he raised his glass. The toast was simple but profound. To love, the only power stronger than a crown. Applause filled the room. And yet, beneath that grandeur, one truth lingered. The king had given the world his daughter, and the world had given her back as a queen. Outside, fans crowded every street. From Madrid to Copenhagen, people cried, cheered, and sang. Social media exploded with one phrase, the moment King Felipe cried. Clips of his emotional reaction spread faster than the official broadcast. But it wasn't weakness that people saw, it was truth. A father's love made visible. As the night deepened, Leonor and Christian appeared on the balcony. The lights of Copenhagen twinkled like stars beneath them. Felipe and Letizia stood a few steps behind, watching their daughter wave, not as a princess but as a symbol of unity and grace. And there, in the reflection of the palace windows, Felipe smiled quietly. He had fulfilled his duty, not as king, but as father. The world would remember that ceremony for its elegance, its symbolism, and its breaking of royal barriers. But those who truly watched closely would remember something far greater, the love that connected generations, the humanity behind the crown. As dawn approached, Copenhagen slept beneath royal silence. Yet somewhere in that vast stillness, a father's heart whispered a silent prayer of gratitude. He had watched his daughter step into her destiny. And she had done it with courage, grace, and truth. Princess Leonor's wedding wasn't just another royal event. It was a turning point, where tradition met emotion, and where a king's tears told a story no history book could ever capture. And so, beneath the soft northern sky, the legacy of Spain's future queen began, not with power, but with love.